Fifth chapter, Pastoralists in the Modern World. In this chapter, we are going to discuss about the pastoralists of the modern era. We generally use the word nomads. Who are nomads? Nomads are the people who travel from one place to another place. They don't stay at fixed places. They don't fix themselves to a particular region. So this attitude of the nomads of moving from one place to another place brought a special significance for them. But very rarely they find their places in the pages of history. We in the past lessons studied about the farmers, peasants. Sometimes we even study about artisans, artists also. But very rarely we study about the pastoralists or the nomads. Why? Do they don't have any importance in the history? Are their lives not so important for us? Now, in this unit, we are going to discuss about the nomads. How did their life go on? How did the lives get impacted with the British colonial system? How is it in India? How is it in Africa? So, from the smallest level to the international level, we will now try to explore what and the conditions, what affected the nomads, what are the conditions that they faced, are they good or bad, what are the effects of the British colonialism. These all will be focusing in this unit. Now, the pastoral nomads and their movements. We already mentioned that nomads means the people those who travel from one place to another place. Do they travel alone? No. They travel with their herds, the group of their herds of cattle or sheep or goat. They carry, their main intention is to get some food for their cattle. So in order to get the food for their cattle, they used to move from one place to another place in search of the pastures. Now we will find out how it happened in our country, in India. First of all, the movements were restricted to mountain regions. It is in Jammu and Kashmir, the Gujar Bakarwalas. The Gujar Bakarwalas of Jammu and Kashmir used to move from north to south and again backward from south to north as per the climatic changes. How did they used to move? When it was in the month of summer, they used to move upwards towards the Kashmir Valley. They used to cross the Pir Panjal range and they used to move upwards where the snow melts and the mountains are lushed with the grasses. So they used to get the feed pastures for their goat and sheep in summer in the Kashmir Valley. And when these all people, a long group or a huge group came together like this who have their own herds of goat and sheep, this group of families moving ahead towards the north is known as Kafila. Kafila is nothing but a group of people who have their own herds of cattle and sheep travel from south towards the north into the Kashmir Valley to find the pastures for their cattle. This group is known as Kafila. And in the month of April when they move to Kashmir, again when the winter sets on, so it is in the month of September, they again move downwards towards the foothills of Shivaliks where the dry pastures also provide cattle feed for them. Because in winter, again the Kashmir Valley is covered with snow and mountains are filled with the snows filled completely, so there you can't find even a single grass land there. So it's very difficult for them even to move and stay there also. The climatic condition also becomes very cold. So it is better for them to move downwards and safeguard their cattle and provide some feed for that. Again in the month of summer, that is in the month of April, again they move back towards the north. This is the regular procedure what they used to follow. That's why it is rightly named them as nomadic people. This is an example in Gujar Bakarwalas of Jammu and Kashmir. Now, moving on to the other type or other group of people like Gadis of Shepherds of Himachal region, Himachal Pradesh region. They also followed the same similar cycle while moving up and down basing on the climatic seasons. Like in summer, they also used to enter the Jammu region in the villages of Lahul and Spiti, where they used to have the meadows which grown in the summer season, where the snow starts to melt down. So you get the meadows ready for their herds. And moving on into the winter, they also move downwards towards the south to the low hills of Shivaliks, where they find the fog for their food, herds like in the scrub forests. Like this, it has been a common phenomena of the people in the mountain ranges, the moving across due to the climatic changes. It's not only in the northern part, it is also found in the eastern part also, where in the far of the east, the Garhwal and the Kuman tribal people also used to move towards the Babar region, which is Babar is a different types of landforms what we have in the geographic lesson. So this is somewhat fertile land. In winter they used to move downwards, and in summer they used to go upwards, that is towards the Bogayals land region. So now Babar and Bogals, the same cycle we can observe here also. In winter they are moving towards the downlands, in summer they are moving towards the highlands. This cyclical movement is not only found in these Gadi shepherds or only between the Garhwals or Kumyan, but in almost all the Himalayan region nomadic people, pastorals, that is the Bhotias, Sherpas and the Kinnarois. All these are the tribal people who move on, or the nomadic people who move on according to seasonal changes. Whenever they find that the fog or the food availability or the pastures availability for their cattle is ending up, they immediately shift their location from there to another place in searching of pastures for their cattle. This is actually very useful, because the continuous exploiting of the grass or pastures in any one particular place can result in over usage of that particular place. Because of these people moving continuously from one place to another place, this over usage is getting reduced. That's what we can observe from here. Now what happens in plain regions? Till now we have discussed about the mountain regions. That is in the Himalayas, they are moving upwards or the downwards basing on the climatic changes. So what will happen if they are in the plain lands? Let's find out. Now moving on to understand how did the nomads spend their lives when they are in plateaus, plains or the semi-arid desert regions. We have discussed how they used to move from higher elevation to the lower elevation, again from lower places to the higher places in the mountain lands. Now moving on to the other groups like Dangars. The Dangars are one of the prominent nomadic groups who stay in Maharashtra state. Their population was nearly 4,67,000 in the early 20th century. So they were huge in population. They usually used to do the works like blanket weavers, and they also were buffalo herders. So they used to weave blankets and they also were buffalo herders. Before we saw in the mountain ranges, we saw the sheep and the goat herders. Now moving on, in which region they used to stay? They used to stay in the central plateau. What is the significance of the central plateau? The central plateau is a semi-arid region, very low rainfall, and here you find the scrub thorny forest. The thorny scrub forest give the flock for the herders here, and here they used to cultivate the crop also. Very rarely we find a crop grown here. That is only the bajra crop is grown here. And as the monsoons enter here, this is a semi-arid region. So then they move towards the month of October, they move towards the west. They move towards the Konkan coast. The Konkan peasants used to welcome the herders happily. Why did they welcome them? Very happily. Because in the Konkan coast, we have the flourishing agriculture. It is filled with agricultural tracts, and these tracts are very fertile and receive very heavy rainfall, because the strategic location of Konkan region is found in the between the Arabian Sea and the Western Ghats. So because of the presence of the Western Ghats, the winds which come from the Arabian Sea are getting blocked by the Western Ghats, and they cause rains on the Konkan coast. Because of that, these regions become very fertile and create a flourishing agricultural tracts. This also makes the soil to be very fertile. So because of that, here you find the crop seasons on set, and the peasants wait for the pastorals to come here with their herders, because they were in the time of when the Kharif season is being cut. When the Kharif crop is cut, they want it to be cleared and made it ready for the Rabi season. So they give all the waste cut parts, everything for the buffaloes or the herders who come there, and after finishing that, they also used to give rice for the dangars to carry with them when they are going back towards their northern region, and they make the crop ready for the Rabi season. And as soon as the monsoon sets in, when the monsoon sets in, again they start to move back towards their northern lands. Why? Because in the monsoon regions or in the monsoon climatic conditions, it is very difficult for the herders to stay there. The animals could not survive in the wet climatic conditions, so they need dry lands so that they can graze and they can stay there. So that is the reason why they start their journey back again and move back to the central plateau region. Yes, this is in the mountain regions. We have discussed that the tribal or the nomadic people are moving from the upper part of the mountain towards the southern part or the down towards the foothills. Again, when the summer comes, they are moving towards the upper part. But here we are finding it, they are moving all along towards the west and all along towards the back to the north. Why? Because the entire region has a similar type of climatic condition. If you want to change, or if you want to have that new grass or green or pastures for the cattle, the entire region is dry. Obviously you don't find anything wherever you go, so you have to change completely towards another type of climatic condition, where there you find the flourishing agricultural tracts. That is the reason why these people of Dangars are moving from Maharashtra to Konkan coast, and again they are moving back from Konkan coast to their central plateau lands.